332 BC. You stand on the Phoenician coast. Ahead lies the greatest existential gamble of the ancient world. This is Tyre, an island fortress rising from the crushing abyss, arrogantly defying the greatest conqueror of the age. Without a fleet, Alexander's invincible momentum is abruptly halted. His mighty land army is completely paralyzed by the open ocean. Retreat is suicide. Alexander knows Tyre must fall, or his shattered authority will instantly bury his newborn empire forever.
History here is a blood-soaked curse. Over 2 centuries ago, King Nebuchadnezzar II marched on this exact shore. 13 agonizing years of desperate clinging. The mighty Babylonian war machine crumbled entirely against these unforgiving sheer stone walls. A brutal psychological slaughter. Nebuchadnezzar was forced into a humiliating retreat, leaving thousands dead in the crushing abyss. Tyre has never fallen. This proud island waits patiently to swallow Alexander whole, dragging him into the same abyss of defeat. Night falls. Amidst suffocating dread, extreme pressure pushes Alexander's exhausted mind into a restless, feverish sleep on the dark shoreline.
Within his delirium, a blinding vision pierces the dark. Not a mortal tactician, but a divine entity calling out to him. The god Heracles manifests atop the walls of Tyre. He extends a massive hand, beckoning his royal descendant forward. Aristander the seer instantly decodes the dream. Like the 12 labors, Tyre will fall only through absolute, unimaginable physical toil. Alexander attempts one final diplomatic move, offering terms of surrender. But the Tyrians commit a fatal, unforgivable mistake. The envoys are brutally slaughtered on the battlements. Their broken bodies are thrown into the sea before the entire Macedonian army. Authority insulted, Alexander decrees absolute annihilation. If the deep ocean protects Tyre, he will turn it into solid land.
Alexander faces a suffocating dread. The mighty Persian fleet controls the Mediterranean, threatening to sever his fragile supply lines completely. A logistical nightmare unfolds. The invincible Macedonian war machine is a land-based beast, now entirely vulnerable to absolute naval annihilation. To survive this existential gamble, Alexander conceives a terrifying, paradoxical strategy. He will use his infantry to defeat a navy. If he cannot sail to the island, he will physically drag the continent to Tyre. An unprecedented engineering nightmare begins. The ancient mainland city of Old Tyre is ruthlessly dismantled. Temples and homes are instantly reduced to raw ammunition for survival.
Elite phalangites become pack mules. They haul heavy stone and timber through deep mud, fighting a psychological slaughter against absolute exhaustion. Thousands of tons of ancient debris are violently hurled into the crushing abyss, but the ocean fights back with relentless, raging currents. Engineers labor waist-deep in freezing, violent tides. Every inch of this artificial land bridge is paid for in blood and shattered bones. The sheer momentum of survival drives them forward. A brutal physical defiance, forcing the ocean to submit to their king's absolute will. Nearing the island, a deadly rain of Tyrian arrows violently halts their progress. Alexander needs mechanical monsters to protect his exposed men.
Enter Diades of Pella, the master engineer. He doesn't just build weapons, he designs colossal moving beasts of pure destruction. 2 staggering wooden siege towers begin to rise upon the mud, 50 meters tall, designed to utterly dominate Tyre's highest battlements. To survive Tyrian fire arrows, the wooden skeletons are heavily armored. Workers nail thick, dripping wet animal hides across the entire exterior. Deafening hammer strikes echo across the bloody coast. The wet leather serves as organic armor, a brilliant defense against the fiery storm. Inside their dark bellies, heavy torsion catapults are mounted. Animal sinews twist under extreme pressure, ready to unleash shattering bronze and stone. Slowly, agonizingly, hundreds of men push the colossal wooden beasts forward. The existential gamble creeps ever closer to the defiant island walls.
Alexander watches his terrifying war machine dominate the horizon. The crushing abyss has been temporarily conquered by raw, unyielding Macedonian will. The ultimate clash is imminent, but Tyre refuses to submit. They are secretly preparing an apocalyptic storm of their own. The artificial causeway inches closer. But directly before the walls, the seabed drastically drops into a 5.5-meter crushing abyss. Construction hits an impossible physical wall. Millions of heavy stones are effortlessly swallowed by the violent, unforgiving deep-sea currents. Small, swift Tyrian boats swarm the trapped builders. The arrogant defenders unleash a relentless, apocalyptic storm of arrows upon the Macedonians. Pinned down on a narrow strip of mud, Alexander's men are paralyzed by suffocating dread. The mighty siege towers cannot advance. Seizing this critical paralysis, Tyre orchestrates a brutal psychological slaughter. They unleash a devastating naval weapon of absolute annihilation.
An old transport ship is weaponized into a floating bomb. Its deep belly is packed with dry timber, highly flammable pitch and sulfur. Heavy stone ballasts are tied to the stern. This forcefully elevates the ship's sharp prow, perfectly designed to slide over any wooden barricade. From its twin masts swing enormous metal cauldrons. They are absolutely brimming with boiling oil and highly volatile, deadly chemical compounds. A fanatical suicide crew waits patiently in the stormy harbor. They are fully prepared to trigger a fiery apocalypse to save their island. The wind shifts. Favorable gusts violently drive the massive fire ship directly into the exposed Macedonian causeway. The deadly trap is finally sprung. Driven by maximum momentum, the heavy beast aggressively rams the barricades. Its elevated prow violently slides right onto the muddy artificial land. The Tyrian crew instantly sets the deck ablaze before plunging into the crushing abyss. In seconds, the ship becomes a roaring, unstoppable inferno. The burning masts violently collapse. Massive cauldrons crash down, spilling their explosive payload and instantly igniting a catastrophic, uncontrollable firestorm. Alexander's 50-meter mechanical beasts are instantly swallowed by fire. The wet animal hide armor rapidly boils, curls and crumbles into black ash. Swift Tyrian commandos land immediately. They brutally hack apart the burning catapults, ensuring the Macedonian war machine is utterly and irrevocably destroyed.
As if the gods were enraged, a massive sea storm strikes. Violent, towering waves aggressively shatter the remaining heavily weakened muddy causeway. Alexander's monumental existential gamble is violently erased in a single afternoon. Months of blood, sweat, and shattering bronze vanish into the dark sea. Standing in the freezing rain, Alexander glares into an abyss of defeat. This catastrophic crisis has brutally shattered his initial untested arrogance.
Alexander adapts instantly. He brutally requisitions 220 massive allied warships from Sidon and Cyprus to achieve absolute naval supremacy. Over 200 heavy warships suddenly blanket the horizon. The strategic paradigm violently shifts. Alexander now commands an apocalyptic naval storm. Suffocating dread instantly grips Tyre. The arrogant defenders scramble desperately, dragging thick iron chains across their twin harbors to lock themselves safely inside. The hunters have become the hunted. Blockaded from the open sea, Tyre is now entirely trapped within its own towering dark stone cage. Alexander orders an immediate naval bombardment. But the Tyrians cunningly dump massive stone blocks directly beneath the waterline to break approaching hulls.
An extreme underwater salvage war begins. Macedonian naval engineers deploy heavy wooden cranes, desperately attempting to violently rip the submerged boulders entirely away. But Tyre unleashes unseen terrors. Invisible in the dark depths, Tyrian combat divers aggressively intercept the operation, armed with razor-sharp bronze blades. The stealthy divers brutally sever the thick hemp ropes. Cranes violently collapse as the massive rocks plunge back into the crushing abyss. Furious, Alexander adapts with sheer unyielding brutality. He violently replaces all hemp ropes with heavy iron chains, rendering underwater sabotage entirely useless. The mechanical beasts regain their momentum. Thick iron chains hold firm, and the massive obstructing boulders are violently extracted from the seabed. The underwater obstacles are finally cleared. The Macedonian ships push directly beneath the towering walls, only to face an unimaginable psychological slaughter. From the high battlements, an apocalyptic storm descends. Tyrian defenders pour thousands of pounds of superheated, glowing red sand directly onto the attackers. The burning sand violently slips beneath solid bronze armor.
It immediately sears human flesh down to the bone in an excruciating, inescapable trap. Driven mad by unimaginable agony, heavy infantrymen violently throw themselves into the dark ocean. Many drown instantly, pulled down by heavy armor. The flesh-melting defense brutally stalls the invasion again. This psychological slaughter pushes the absolute limits of Macedonian endurance to a dangerous breaking point. Extreme midday heat forces a temporary lull. Seizing this moment, a hidden Tyrian strike force aggressively bursts out, launching a desperate flank attack.
Heavy bronze rams violently shatter unprepared Cypriot hulls. Splintering wood and agonizing screams echo as the Tyrians orchestrate a brutal, fast-paced naval massacre. Alexander abandons his rest instantly. Driven by extreme primal fury, he personally boards his royal flagship, immediately rallying an elite rapid response squadron. Executing a flawless, high-speed tactical envelopment, Alexander violently outflanks the Tyrian squadron. The momentum of survival brutally shifts back to the young king. The heavy ram delivers an utterly crushing blow. Tyrian ships are violently split in half, their desperate naval gamble ending in absolute annihilation.
August 332 BC. After 7 agonizing months, Alexander discovers a fatal structural flaw on the southern wall. The absolute endgame finally begins. An unprecedented combined arms bombardment erupts. While the main fleet violently distracts the defenders, specialized artillery violently hammers the fragile southern stones without mercy. The relentless mechanical punishment pays off. The invincible towering defense violently fractures, crumbling entirely into the dark sea and exposing a jagged wound. Alexander instantly seizes the momentum. 2 heavy assault ships aggressively drive forward, violently slamming thick wooden boulder bridges directly into the jagged ruins. General Admetus fearlessly leads the vanguard. Driven by absolute loyalty, he violently charges across the wooden bridge, becoming the first Macedonian upon the walls.
But glory demands blood. A heavy Tyrian spear violently impales Admetus instantly. The brave commander dies brutally on the shattered, jagged rocks. Alexander violently steps over his fallen commander. Embodying pure, unrestrained, apocalyptic rage, the young king personally leads the brutal, overwhelming infantry flood inside. The psychological slaughter begins. Thousands of elite Macedonians violently pour into the city. 7 months of agonizing frustration explode into absolute butchery. Narrow alleys choke with bleeding bodies. Over 8,000 Tyrians are violently hacked to pieces in a merciless, suffocating frenzy of shattered bronze. The punishment is a gruesome existential nightmare. 2,000 survivors are violently crucified along the coastline, a horrific warning to the entire ancient world.
30,000 citizens are ruthlessly chained and sold into absolute slavery. The mighty Tyrian civilization is violently erased from the Mediterranean map forever. Yet inside the Temple of Heracles, Alexander spares the Tyrian king and foreign envoys. A cold political calculation displaying absolute, terrifying mercy amidst annihilation. Amidst the chaotic slaughter, Sidonian allies secretly rescue 15,000 Tyrians. Even in absolute annihilation, a tiny spark of survival quietly escapes the darkness. The macro-level outcome is violently definitive. By destroying Tyre, Alexander permanently shatters the Persian navy without ever fighting a massive sea battle. Alexander entirely altered geography itself. The artificial causeway remains permanently, violently forcing the proud island to become a subservient peninsula for eternity.
His fragile rear is totally secure. The brutal mechanics of war have forged an invincible monster. Alexander now turns his terrifying gaze eastward. Deep in the dusty plains of Mesopotamia, the ultimate battlefield is fully prepared. Emperor Darius III awaits with an unimaginable 1,000,000-man army. The absolute pinnacle of ancient warfare is here. Scythed chariots and war elephants stand ready for a clash of absolute annihilation. Everything is perfectly set for the ultimate showdown. Subscribe now. Next time, we violently march into the catastrophic, earth-shattering chaos of Gaugamela.